Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Lazio Lounge. I'm Vittorio Campanile. With me, as usual, Alistair McKenzie. Alistair, are you surprised of what happened today? I mean, Lazio winning 2-1 with two goals from Caicedo.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what's the most surprising part. How good the first half was. The fact that Caicedo was the one who scored both the goals, or probably the least surprising part was the fact that in the end, it wasn't that easy for us. In the second half, was basically 45 minutes of utter torture. But I think we're used to that by now, aren't we?
Yeah, it wasn't a surprise at all. I was, really convinced that Samp in the second half would have come back, and that's exactly what happened. Even though for our friends who maybe didn't watch the match, Sampdoria was left in 10 men because Ramirez had something to complain with the ref. 2 yellow cards. Honestly, I'm not sure the second one was a yellow card, Alistair, but I thought that the referee was so pissed off with Ramirez, who I think from the beginning of the match started complaining, asking for yellow cards for Lazio player, that, at the first foul he made, the referee made him pay and sent him straight back in the lockers. So, yeah, very good first half, very bad second half, I would say, but three very important points as we were saying, and incredibly as it can be, with Milan losing tonight, the Champions League is back there, 3 points. It's going to be really difficult because Lazio have complicated matches compared to the others, but it's still possible, Alistair, right?
Well, we gotta believe. I think a lot of things need to happen. I'm still not feeling entirely confident about finishing the Champions League. I think a top six finish is a more realistic objective, I suppose, at this point. Simply because although it's only 3 points between us and Roma as it stands, we do need not only to probably win all four of our remaining games, but as well as that, we need favours from the rest of them. And it's one thing if you're only trying to overtake the team above you, but when you've got, 4 teams above you, you're trying to get past it, becomes a bit more difficult. So, yeah, I mean, look, I think we're in a much better place by tonight than we expected to be at this stage last week. Given what happened against Chievo, I think the reaction that we've seen to that defeat has been as good as we could have hoped for. The performance and the result against Milan was excellent, and then tonight, this wasn't ever going to be an easy game. Away to Sampdoria, and a good Sampdoria team. I know we've got a good record against them over the years, but this team with Gianpaolo are a difficult team, and I think that obviously people have, given the way the second half went, people are flagging up a lot of concerns and so on. But given how recently we were playing Milan in midweek, and given the difficulty of this fixture, I think coming away with any sort of win has to be something that we're very pleased with.
And my biggest concern before this match was seeing the starting 11. A lot of turnovers. Someone was forced. Milinkovic Savic and Luis Alberto couldn't play. Radu is injured. But when Inzaghi changed so many players, then there is the risk that who comes in is not focused, not 100% focused. Maybe, like Wallace, he didn't play for a long time, so maybe he's a little bit rusty. And so my biggest concern was, okay, Lazio may not play really well today because a lot of these players haven't played from a long time. Instead, first half, amazing. I thought Lazio played really great football. And in the second half, I thought one of the reasons why Lazio played so bad is because players like Leiva, like Parolo, Correa, they were really tired, and this is because they even played Wednesday, and so it's that for me the biggest reason why Lazio in the second half was struggling to win this match. Don't know if you agree with me.
Well, that's That's what Inzaghi pointed to after the game, as he thought he would. But I've already said on Twitter tonight to someone having a discussion about this that I think that is actually a bit too easy for him. I think that's a bit of a cop-out, just saying it was tiredness, because there's certain things that can help you out in these situations. If you're a man up for a lot more sensible in the way that they managed that game. There were periods in that second half where they held the ball, where they moved it around, slowed the tempo down, and did things right. And you want the second half to be as boring as possible in that situation, really, to just get the result. But there were also other moments where, particularly after Sampdoria had pulled a goal back, you've still got Wallace and Bastos coming forward to join attacks and going up to the wing position. And more often than not, the ball would come over to the other end of the pitch, and Sampdoria would have a 2-on-2 or a 3-on-3. I just think you don't need to be committing so many of these defenders forwards in these positions. You're leaving yourself defensively far too exposed. This is a strategic thing, a tactical thing. And then also just poor decisions, poor moments of concentration. I think Strakosha's kicking, was bad again today. He had a few where he just gave it back to Sampdoria. You can slow the game down, try and play it out. You've got a man advantage. You can tire them out. You can find the space. But instead, we're hitting long balls to no one and letting them start a new attack. Even right at the end, Ciro Immobile on the counter-attack. You can slow the ball down, go to the corner. Instead, he tries to play the wonder pass through to Correa. It would have been great if it comes off, but these are just, these are agree with the fact that it's simply just tiredness.
You know what? You understand when sport journalists didn't watch Lazio for a long time, when today, during the match, the Sky commentator said Strakosha is very good with his feet. I'd never, how can it be possible? A journalist saying that Strakosha is very good with his feet. Watching Lazio in the last 2 years, we saw how many times he sent the ball directly in the stands or missed the pass. So I don't know. Probably he was watching something else. But apart from that,
you do hear a lot of people say that for some reason, though. I don't know. I've heard people say this before. I think maybe just because he's young, or he looks like he might be good with his feet, but it's definitely not.
I think one of the reasons is because Lazio tend to play a lot with the goalkeeper. If you go and see the other teams, it's not like that. Think about Inter. Andanovic hardly touches the ball. So Inzaghi is one of the options. It's a little bit, if you go and see Guardiola's team tend to do this a lot. One of the options Guardiola gives to the players is to pass the ball to his goalkeeper. That's why he always look for a goalkeeper who has very good feet. Inzaghi do the same, but I'm not convinced Strakosha has a very good feet. Probably better than Marchetti. I thought Marchetti was terrible on that side, but still not very good. But going back to the match, who was playing instead of Caicedo tonight?
Well, look, credit where credit's due to Caicedo, because I think we were surprised by quite how devastating he was, how quickly the goal came, how good the goal was. Both of them were brilliant. But there's a lot of quite interesting statistics floating around about Caicedo at the moment. Obviously, he's now scored 4 goals in his last 3 Serie A games, which is a great run he's on. But also, I saw that there's only... I think it's 3 players, Zapata, Quagliarelli and Patagna. There's only 3 players who've scored more goals in Serie A in 2019 than Felipe Caicedo. He's got 7 in 2019 now. So he really has been the guy who's, I think I said this last week, who's stepped up when the rest of the team have been struggling a bit. And this was his best performance yet, though. But it does actually raise the question, it's feels absolutely bizarre to be in this position, but given Immobile's lack of form, and given the fact that he was put to the bench today and Caicedo scored twice and Lazio still got a win, I mean, are we in a position now for the first time ever where Caicedo is genuinely the better option, the more on form option, at least I should say?
Well, probably is this the point, and I thought this should have always been the target for Lazio to have two very good strikers that you can replace without losing nothing. And the fact is that today both goals were, big credit to Caicedo, especially the first one. He steals the ball to the defender and run 40 meters, and then is still able to score. And on the second one, finally, a cross from a winger of Lazio. I don't remember last time that happened. And and a good header. People can say, well, no wingers ever put the ball in the box, so we couldn't see if we had very good headers this season. But yeah, Romolo did it finally, and it looked to me like it was Miro Klose instead of Caicedo there.
Yeah, it's just a shame that he actually missed a really bad chance right at the start, right after he'd scored. He had a free header in it, which he missed, but we'll ignore that one for now. But yeah, I mean, it was amazing to be in this position where he was actually away from having a perfect hat-trick, and he was put himself in that position within 20 minutes. I mean, hats off to the guy. It's been a great run of form, but I don't know, do you start him ahead of Immobile? Who do you start now as your front two?
Well, it depends. It depends really on the condition. Honestly, my biggest concern is, and this is not the first time, even in the derby, if you remember, he played really well. But in the second half, he disappeared. And he did pretty much the same today against Sampdoria. So, it could be an easy solution. You start Caicedo and then you bring in Immobile. But you even have to understand what's going on. Why Caicedo has 45 minutes of play and afterwards he disappeared. Today, to be honest, even Correa in the second half pretty much didn't do nothing. So I wonder if it was tiredness, especially for Correa, and what was the problem with Caicedo? Because it's not the first time. If you think about his performance, maybe he had great first half and bad second one, or the other way around, but never 90 minutes of Caicedo, getting very dangerous for 90 minutes.
Yeah, but I suppose that's the benefit of having these different options, though, isn't it? I mean, there was another pretty interesting thing I saw on Lazio page. Lazio page have been on fire today, so I'm going to gradually kind of drip feed their statistics into this. But they said this is the 6th time this season that Correa and Caicedo have started together, and it's the 6th win for Lazio. Every single time that Inzaghi's picked those two up front from the start, we've won. So the other ones have been Udinese 2-1, Bologna 2-0, Empoli 1-0, Roma 3-0, of course, Parma 4-1, and then tonight. And I think that's quite interesting, because I remember going on a bit of a rant earlier on this season about how I just didn't think that those two could really coexist, or at least up until that stage I didn't think that their relationship was working, and I didn't think they were properly understanding each other. But I do certainly think that has changed this year in 2019, and it does seem to be something that's flourishing and working quite well. But I do agree with you, it's quite hard to remember Caicedo having a 90-minute match, but I think tonight, part of that is perhaps that he was running around like a maniac. I mean, there was one point where Sampdoria were attacking in the second half, and I remember just seeing him sprinting around chasing the ball like he was a school kid who was playing football for the first time and just following the ball everywhere it went. But, he does put in the effort.
Yeah, and that's, I think, one of the biggest thing that changed compared to last year. We are seeing Caicedo putting the effort that I got the impression sometimes he didn't put in the match last year, even when he was coming from the bench. Sometimes it looked to me that he was not happy, and instead now he's much better player. And I agree with Correa, especially in the first half. The two were playing really, really well together. I don't know if it's because Sampdoria was playing with a very high defense, but When Correa is on, he's really dangerous. He turns himself even in a very good assist man. So I thought that the two can play really well together, and this is a nice solution. Inzaghi after the match was asked if he ever thought about playing the three together, Immobile, Correa, Caicedo, and he said that this week he was thinking about playing Correa in the position of Luis Alberto. I'm not convinced Correa can play that there, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, I wasn't convinced by that idea either. I'm not really sure how you would do that. I mean, at least I don't think you'd be able to do that in the current system. I think perhaps if you put Immobile and Caicedo up front together and had Correa in a kind of number 10 position and change the formation to suit that, then that's a different matter. But in the current formation, I can't really see how you fit all those players in.
No,
and also, I don't think we want him to start experimenting too much at this stage.
No, and the thing is, probably if you want to play them all three together, then instead of putting Correa in line with the other midfielder, Correa should play trequartista and Caicedo should play near Ciro Immobile. I don't think so. It shouldn't be a 3-5-2. It should be something like a 3-4-1-2.
Yeah, which I suppose you could try, say, if you had two kind of holding midfielders, if you had Lucas and Badel, for example, maybe. But yeah, I mean, for me, I think he doesn't need to do that. He doesn't need to experiment with doing that. But I mean, that's the other thing I was wanting to talk about as well, was that it was, I thought, really encouraging, not only the fact that, as I've just said, we managed to get a result away so close to a big expenditure of energy against Milan, but also with all those players missing. I mean, I think there was a time in the past anyway where if you took Radu, Milinkovic, Savic, Luis Alberto and Ciro Immobile out of the team, the entire kind of spirit of this team disappears. So I think that it was very encouraging, particularly for Marco Parolo, Danilo Cataldi to get a chance in midfield. Played pretty well. Bastos got another shot. I think he's done so much better than expected in that Radu position. Perhaps the more surprising thing was to see Wallace starting on the right. And I don't know about you, but for me, I didn't really understand that, because if there's so many changes happening elsewhere in the team that are enforced, like the midfields and like needing to rest Immobile, then why not keep that same defence? I think I spoke about this on Wednesday, that I'd like to see some consistency in the defensive selection now, but Inzaghi constantly changes the defence almost every week. So I didn't really get why he wouldn't just play Felipe again and keep the same defence that's been doing so well recently.
Honestly, I don't understand, especially because, as we said Wednesday, that's probably the best defense we ever saw Lazio playing. Ramos is very young. He can improve, etc. Bastos is having probably his best season with us. So, I don't know. But Inzaghi seems to do it every time, right? Because even in the past, he was putting in Patrick instead of other players. He said he saw Wallace training very hard. But I don't know. My idea is that he believes that Ramos at the moment is not able to play twice a week, and maybe that's why he wasn't playing tonight. But apart from that, I have no clue why he's doing this. We know that Rado is out for injury, and we don't know when he's going to come back. But apart from that, yeah, it doesn't make sense to me.
Maybe wanting people to remember who Wallace is for the summer transfer market. Don't want to be too cynical.
Maybe he's convinced that all those players are at the same level. So if he plays Bastos or Wallace or Ramos, it doesn't change that much. But I'm not convinced about that. Today Wallace didn't play badly, and this was encouraging. I thought that the defense played well, Even when we were struggling, I thought I didn't see any mistakes from Bastos or Wallace. I saw a couple of times Bastos recovering the ball after Lulic making some mistakes, but yeah, I was really concerned every time Wallace had the ball on his feet, but he didn't do nothing dramatic. So I thought they played well.
Yeah, it did fine. I mean, I suppose there's nothing much to worry about in the first half, and then the goal was a bit of a freak goal, to be honest. I think we should probably talk about it because there's been some confusion about whether Quagliarella was offside or not, because at the moment the ball's played, Quagliarella's in an offside position, and so they showed the kind of freeze frame on the TV pictures of that. But because I believe it's come off Acerbi's head on the way, Quagliarella is then made inactive. So he basically isn't part of the move anymore, and that's why he's onside for the goal. So it's just a bit of an unfortunate series of events, really, for that to actually end up happening.
I have to check, but I'm pretty convinced that it depends on if you consider the Acerbi a pass or it's just a deflection. I thought it was a clear deflection, and in that case it should be offside. But I think the referee didn't see it like I did, so I think that's the reason why it wasn't called offside. And I believe that as it's an interpretation, you couldn't use the VAR to check it. So I think that's the reason why it was allowed. But yeah, I want to dig a little bit deeper to check these things.
Yeah, well, no, that's a good point, actually. There's no way that was a pass.
Not for me.
And Acerbi's good, but he's not that good. I
mean, and if you remember, what was it last year? Lazio got a goal. I think a goal of Ciro Immobile disallowed, and it was instead with the head, it was with the foot. The player kicked the ball, and the ball went directly to Ciro Immobile in front of the goalkeeper. So I remember this rule, but yeah, we have to check a little bit. But the thing most concerning for me about the ref today was the free kick that Cataldi got. I don't know if you remember in the second half. I thought it was in the penalty box, but even the replay show it that Cataldi was with both his feet on the line, so it should have been a penalty. But again, the VAR wasn't called, and so it was just a free kick where Immobile hit the bar.
Yeah. I'd need to have another look at that, to be honest. I mean, I think those ones are so marginal, and this is where I think VAR becomes a bit difficult, is that if that is called as a free kick, I don't think it can be reviewed as being a possible penalty. I'm not really sure. That seems like a bit of a grey area to me, that whether it's inside or outside the box.
No, I think it has been called already once this year, because obviously it cannot be reviewed a free kick, but it can be reviewed if it's a penalty, so they can check if it was inside or outside. I think against Lazio they did it, right? They give the free kick and then they gave the penalty against us. So, and again, I don't know why they didn't call the VAR, because on TV the replay and even the commentator said, well, it looks like it's in the box, it's a penalty. So, but anyway, probably Ciro Immobile would have hit the bar anyway, even there. So maybe it's even better.
Yeah. Well, we've come away with the win, so thankfully we don't need to dwell too long on refereeing decisions. I think that Sampdoria were a bit angry about some of the refereeing as well, so yeah, I don't know. It was a bit of a strange game referee-wise. I think there was a lot of a few odd decisions going around.
Yeah, as I said at the beginning, I thought the second yellow card to Ramirez was a little bit harsh. I thought it wasn't a yellow card, but probably Ramirez has been complaining all the first half, so the referee was quite upset with him, and at the first chance he sent him away. So, But yeah, don't blame the referee for tonight. Again, some of the Lazio player was tired. I thought Leva didn't play a very good match tonight. He missed a couple of very important passes. So I think it's more that the problem than the referee tonight.
Yeah, it was odd. We've rarely seen games like that where Leva has stood out for being sloppy on the ball. Usually, I think as well, maybe that's because he often plays it safe with his passes. Whereas tonight there are a few occasions actually where he just made the wrong decision and tried to make longer passes out of defence or cleverer passes in positions where he actually caused more danger than he was ever going to create. And that was uncharacteristic. I don't think it's anything to be too concerned about. I think he did a lot of good work in the game as well, actually. But that was certainly one part of his game that was a little bit concerning, was those stray passes, and also he lost the ball in possession a couple of times as well. But it's not going to affect him, is it? I mean, it's he's usually so reliably consistent that it's not exactly going to result in him being dropped next week.
No, I don't think so. And next week, it's a key match. It's Lazio-Atalanta. We already won't have Lulic, and Lazio need to win that. So I think Inzaghi has to put the best team available to play against Atalanta. It's going to be really fundamental, those 3 points, if we want to keep the Champions League dream alive.
Yeah, it's a massive game, actually. It feels a bit strange that it's a 3 o'clock game, because it feels like it should be one of the evening ones. But in a way, that's quite nice. I think the 3 o'clock games are often the best attended ones as well. So, yeah, I'm hoping we can get a big crowd for that. And obviously, yeah, it's not only a massive battle for the Champions League race, but is a kind of addition, I suppose, for well, not an addition, a rehearsal for the Coppa Italia final. It's going to come soon. And yeah, that's going to be a really interesting game, I think, because it's not often you really get to have a look at your cup final opponents so close to the event and in the same venue as well. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the build up to that's like, how much chat about the cup final there is around it, and so on. When both these teams have very much still got aspirations about what's going to happen in the league as well.
And it's going to be curious to see Atalanta playing tomorrow at 6 o'clock. What a strange time. And then they're playing Lazio. So they have the chance, if they win tomorrow, to be fourth. I think it's the first time they reached that point. Do you change team just to hide your ideas for the final against Atalanta, or you play the best team anyway?
You play the best team without doubt, because this is a massive game for the Champions League race, like I said, and that's something that Lazio still need to take seriously. And as Inzaghi's been saying before the game tonight and afterwards as well, we need to treat these final few games as that they're all cup finals, which is obviously a bit of a football cliche, and you hear that kind of thing quite a lot. But I think he's right. If Lazio want to achieve their objectives for this season, then this end to the season is absolutely crucial. It would be, in my mind, incredible, a bit of a miracle if we managed to get away with losing to Chievo and qualifying for the Champions League. But it's definitely not worth giving up on, because, like I've said time and time again, that all the teams involved in this race are so phenomenally inconsistent that there's no reason why Lazio can't overturn that. They just need a lot of other things to go their way. So, yeah, I think there's no reason why you can't play your strongest team in this game and still feel like you're not giving anything away for the cup final, because it's not exactly a secret either what Inzaghi's favourite team is, what his strongest team is.
No, no, I agree, and it's too important for Lazio, not only for the Champions League, but even for the Europe League, because at the moment, well, Lazio's eighth in the table. It's true that Atalanta has to play another match, and Lazio is just 2 points behind the fourth spot, so everything is achievable. But Lazio have to win, because otherwise the Europe League would be a dream at this point. So it's not going to be easy, and we know that probably the fixture of Lazio is the most complicated of the other teams. It's true that Roma has to play against Juventus, but we don't know which Juventus team will play against Roma, because Juventus has nothing to ask for. They already won the Scudetto, so it's gonna be tough. Lazio have to think about winning all the matches, and then see what happens to the other teams. Obviously, Milan tonight helped, but still Lazio need help from the other teams, and I don't know if it's gonna be easy, because Roma, who was playing badly, it's now back on track, I would say, and you have to give credit to Ranieri, who didn't do nothing amazing, but simply did the normal things. I thought that Di Francesco wasn't doing anymore. So, at this moment, I would say that Roma is the favorite for the fourth spot.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I think I have to agree with you. I mean, a lot of that's because they're in fourth at the moment, which always helps. But I was covering the game yesterday for work, and yeah, they do seem to have turned the corner, and they were very good yesterday. But I mean, like I was saying to you before we came on, there is still something about that team. I still don't trust them. I still think that they can, they are capable of doing something catastrophic at any moment if the Di Francesco mentality creeps back in again. But the thing Ranieri's done is he's stopped them from conceding soft goals. He's just made them a lot more compact, which was his one duty, what he said when he arrived. But yeah, I mean, Atalanta as well, I mean, they can go fourth tomorrow night, and that's a serious team. They're a serious contender. It's really interesting race. I mean, I can't remember a time that there's been so many teams involved in this. I mean, Torino have proven themselves to be right up there as well, and we've still got to play them on the final day. So yeah, I mean, it's quite hard to call. I'm not sure about the idea of people just writing off these Juventus games, though. I mean, it is a bit frustrating from a Lazio perspective, having already played Juventus, that we got them while they had something to play for, and now Roma get them when they don't. But I think that team is still so full of quality, and kind of needing to really prove a point to its fans as well, who are very disappointed, amazingly, with the way the season has gone. So I think that is going to be a tricky one. Obviously, I don't think that we should take it for granted by any means that Juventus are going to lie down and let Roma run all over them.
No, the positive thing is still Juventus fan hates Roma, so they're going to try to push the team to win that. So this is the thing. Some of the question we had today, Alistair, Greek staff, the second half performance vs 10 men Sampdoria was at times disgraceful. Bastos is a terrible defender technically and tactically. Lulic is a legend in his own mind and vastly overestimate his quality. I have to admit that Lulic made some mistakes today, but I don't agree with the Bastos valuation today. I thought, as I said before, he didn't do that bad.
Well, I'm not sure if it sounds like he's necessarily talking about today, or it's just general judgment on Bastos. But no, I think that if you've watched Lazio in recent weeks, you have to appreciate that Bastos has been doing a decent job, and he's managed to get through this period as well without making any huge individual errors. And yeah, the thing that surprised me the most about the defensive selection tonight was that I think the balance works. I was saying this on Wednesday. I think the balance of having Felipe on one side and Bastos on the other is quite nice because you have one player who's perhaps more athletic and better in dealing with one-on-ones and so on in Bastos, and the other player on the other side in Felipe who's better at having the ball at his feet and contributing to the attacks. But by playing Wallace and Bastos, you've got two players who are both pretty awkward with their ball at their feet and not very comfortable playing out from the back. And so that's why I was surprised to see them both in the same team again tonight. But I mean, I want to defend Bastos at this stage. I think that, like Caicedo, he's proven to be a lot more useful as a squad player this season than we ever had any expectations of last summer. I think that most people had made up their minds, us included, about Bastos by last summer, and actually, his performances this season, on the whole, have been pretty good when he's been called upon, particularly in that left centre back role, because it's not his natural side either. So, we're not going to come in here and say that he's the best defender in Serie A or anything. I think we're all very aware of his limits, but I think he's definitely been a useful player and has been performing well recently.
I would say that, as you were saying, he's not the best defender in Serie A, but other big teams have probably worse defenders than him. I think Fazio and Juan Jesus are not better than Bastos, only that, the press treats them better than Bastos. My biggest concern was, as you were saying, having Bastos and Wallace playing together, and they're not very good when they have to start the play with the ball on his feet. And without Leva or Milinkovic-Savic, I thought Lazio could have struggled in playing the ball from the defense, because usually, when you don't have them, there is Luis Alberto starting from the back, and so that was my biggest concern. But we didn't have that problem, even because Sampdoria wasn't pressing very high tonight. So this helped Lucas Leiva go back and take the ball and start moving around. So again, I don't agree with the Bastos valuation today, but I would say that Lulic and Leiva weren't in the best performance tonight. Fenomeno Morboso tweeted, "What's the best way we can apologize to Caicedo as a group? Flowers, a village school in his honor, name an asteroid after him. Also, who's starting the crowdfunding? For us or for Caicedo? That's the biggest question."
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we do all owe Caicedo a bit of an apology. Flowers might be nice. It's probably a bit cheaper. We can probably afford that version. So, if someone can find out his address in Rome, I'll go round to his flat on behalf of Lazio Lounge and give him a nice bouquet of flowers and say sorry.
Maybe you can sing a serenade.
I'd love to do that. Yeah, I need to find out what his favourite song is. Felipe, if you're listening, the address is at Lazio Lounge.
Yeah, are you surprised about how much he changed? Did you expect that, or you think second season in Serie A is the biggest difference?
Yeah, I mean I think that's definitely a big part of it. This is one of my kind of football mantras almost, that I always say that players deserve a second season if they move to a new league, because it can't be that easy to adapt to a new football culture, let alone all the kind of personal side of things. But the thing I have been surprised about is the goals, and that might sound a bit condescending to him because he's a striker, but it's not really if you look at his record as a striker, because he's played all over the world and he's played in the Premier League and in Spain, but he's never been a prolific player. And this is a big part of the reason why we had so much so many concerns about whether he'd be an adequate Vice Immobile. But I was already quite happy with a lot of his performances this season without him necessarily scoring an awful lot, because he was proving to be a good foil for Immobile and for Correa from time to time, as just offering something different. And he works hard and he can hold the ball up. And, he offers something completely different to the rest of our forward players. But the one thing we've always seen from him so far since he's been at Lazio is that when he gets into good scoring opportunities, he so often doesn't take them, and his finishing really hasn't been very good. But that has completely changed, and I don't know whether that's just a mentality thing, if he's able to be more focused, or if he just feels more relaxed now, or if it's a confidence thing because he scored a couple of goals and now he feels like he can do it more regularly. There's not so much pressure on him. That for me has been the biggest surprise, has simply been the fact that he's been able to start converting the chances that he gets more often. And, he could end this season on double figures, which isn't going to blow anyone away, but would be a pretty good return, I think, considering where he was at last season.
No, absolutely. And the comparison I was making is last year when he scored against Sampdoria. I think we all remember that crazy goal. He left the ball to Ciro Immobile, and then Immobile didn't score, and the ball came back to him, and he scored. I said in that podcast, if I'm not wrong, that I never saw a striker leaving the ball in front of the goalkeeper to another one. So, and it looks a completely different player, which is very useful considering the situation of Lazio now and Ciro Immobile. So, yeah, as you were saying, he's taking his chances now, which is really important for us, especially because this year one of the things that Lazio lacked was the goals from midfield and defenders. That last year scored a lot of goals, Luis Alberto, Milinkovic-Savic, Bastos, and now they're, I don't know. I think Acerbi is the only defender who have scored this year in Serie A. So this tells you a little bit the problem Lazio is facing, and so we need someone else to score instead of them.
Yeah, exactly, and that's, I suppose, been the biggest criticism of Tucu Correa as well this season, is that he's definitely made an impact. And, to begin with, obviously a lot of his chances he was getting were from the bench, while Alberto was starting behind Immobile. And it was really this kind of shift of formation that allowed him to start starting games more regularly. But I think still, considering how many games he was starting, how many minutes he was having as a striker in that team, he wasn't contributing enough goals. And, he still isn't. But again, it's the same kind of thing as Caicedo I was just talking about. I think that Correa, for me, has done more than enough this season to suggest that next season he can make a real impact in this league, because I think he's had to adapt to all sorts of different things here. He's had to change position. He's playing on the wing at Sevilla, and now was playing as a number 10, now he's playing as a kind of striker. And he's playing in a completely new formation, a new style, and he's also trying to work out how the best to make his abilities a threat in Serie A. And we all know how devastating he can be on the counter-attack, like he was against Milan on Wednesday. But the amount of time you get that space in Serie A, as we know, is very minimal. So it's up to him to find a way of making an impact in tighter games, in tighter spaces. And I think he's been getting better at that recently. But yeah, I think we still need more goals from him as well, but I think the signs are promising.
Yes, absolutely. I think he scored like 3 goals. So it's
Serie A, yeah.
It's not enough, but at least he's turning to be a very good assist man. So obviously next year he needs to score more, but he's very young. You can see the talent there. As I said, he's very similar to Felipe Anderson. He's younger, so he still can improve. he has to score more. I was hoping to see a different version of Felipe Anderson, someone who would score more instead of making a lot of assists. But still, as you were saying, first year in Serie A, even though he already played here, but in different teams. So I would say still a very good season for Correa. Ups and downs. Unfortunately, that's the biggest problem in the same match. As well. Today he missed incredible chances at the end of the match. Ciro Immobile put him in front of the goalkeeper, and he couldn't score. I thought he was too tired to focus there. But I think as he's very young, he should be able to play 90 minutes at the same level, which is not at the moment. So that's the biggest problem with him, I think.
Yeah, I see on our Twitter we've had Patrick Bowman clearing up our offside conversation for us with a copy of the rules. So apparently it says a player in an offside position receiving the ball from an opponent who deliberately plays the ball, except from a deliberate save by any opponent, is not considered to have gained an advantage. So presumably that means that it doesn't matter whether or not Acerbi was trying to make a back pass. It's just that he was deliberately playing the ball, and therefore Quagliarelli was onside, if I've read that correctly.
Okay. Well, good to know.
Every day's a learning day.
Absolutely. Alistair, do you have another stats before we wrap it up?
I think there was another one. I can try and find again, just because it was quite fun picking up on where we left off last time. But it was about how many times we hit the post, which poor old Ciro Immobile was obviously at it again tonight, hitting the crossbar. Because there's a kind of mini golden boot going on with this in European football. Yeah, so now Immobile's up to 7 times this season he's hit the post, and that's 1 behind Messi, who's at the top of the list, and then he's just ahead of Aguero, Alonso, and Ben Arfa with 6. So Ciro Immobile may not really be in the Capocannoniere race this season, but he is right up there in terms of how many times you can hit the post.
Yeah, and I think he's number 1 in offside this season, just behind, and Quagliarella is just behind. So he's winning other things.
There's another good one as well. I almost forgot about Danilo Cataldi, because he was subbed off after 77 minutes, but in that time he completed all 39 of his passes, and apparently since Lazio Page started making statistics in 2014, he's the only player who's managed to finish a game with a 100% pass record. So good on you, Danilo.
Wow, yeah. Unbelievable. I didn't think he had an amazing performance, but he wasn't that bad. His free kick was not very good today.
Oh, it's terrible, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you again, Alistair, for joining me. As usual, subscribe to our podcast. You can find it on Spreaker, on iTunes, on Spotify, and follow us on our social accounts on Facebook and Twitter. And we're going to be back Sunday night as Lazio's playing at 3 o'clock, right, Alistair?
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you very much, guys, and have a good night, and focus on Lazio Atalanta. Very, 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 very important match. Thank you, everybody. Talk to you next Sunday.
Come on, you eagles, there's no time to fear. Up there's an angel watching